The morning she walked into my diner with a lawyer, I nearly dropped an entire pot of coffee. For 3 years, I had helped her without asking for anything in return. 3 years of free breakfasts, warm coffee, and quiet kindness. She had always smiled softly, thanked me, and disappeared into the city. But that morning, she wasn't alone. She stepped through the front door wearing an elegant navy blue coat, her hair neatly styled, her posture confident. Beside her stood a man carrying a leather briefcase, and when she looked at me, tears filled her eyes. What happened next uncovered a secret connected to the worst day of my life, a secret that would change everything I thought I knew about kindness, loss, and fate. I had no idea that the woman I believed I was helping had actually been watching me all along. If you believe kindness can change a life, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories. Also, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. My name is Michael Harper, and this happened in Portland, Oregon. 5 years earlier, my life looked completely different. I had a wife named Rachel, a small home, and dreams that seemed within reach. Then everything collapsed in less than a year. Rachel became seriously ill, and despite every treatment doctors could offer, I lost her. The grief felt like someone had removed half my soul. Medical bills piled up faster than I could pay them. Eventually, I sold our house and used the money to buy a struggling roadside diner on the edge of town. It wasn't much, but it gave me a reason to wake up every morning. Still, every evening I returned to an empty apartment and wondered if life would ever feel meaningful again. The diner sat near an old bus station where people came and went without leaving much behind, except memories. Most mornings followed the same routine. I opened before sunrise, brewed fresh coffee, wiped down tables, and greeted regular customers. Then, one rainy October morning, everything changed. A powerful storm rolled across the city. Wind rattled the windows. Rain slammed against the glass so hard it sounded like handfuls of gravel. Around 6 o'clock, the front door swung open and a woman stepped inside completely soaked. She looked to be in her late 40s. Her dark hair clung to her face. Water dripped from her sleeves onto the floor. She looked exhausted, frightened, and embarrassed all at once. She quietly asked if she could use the bathroom. Something about the sadness in her eyes reminded me of my own reflection after Rachel died. I pointed her toward the restroom and told her to take her time. 20 minutes later, she emerged looking slightly better, but still shaken. She reached into her pocket, searched for money, and found nothing. Before she could explain, I placed a hot breakfast in front of her. The expression on her face looked like someone who had forgotten kindness still existed. She ate slowly, fighting tears. When she left, I assumed I would never see her again. But why did I feel as though our paths were somehow connected? The next morning, she returned. Then, the morning after that. Soon, it became a routine. Her name was Sarah Collins. She never shared much about herself. She only said she was going through a difficult chapter and was trying to rebuild her life. I never asked too many questions because I understood what it felt like when pain was too heavy to explain. Every morning I made her breakfast. Sometimes she left $1. Sometimes she had nothing at all. It didn't matter. Watching her slowly regain a little hope became one of the brightest parts of my day. Months turned into years. Sarah gradually appeared healthier and stronger. Her clothes improved. Her smile returned. Yet she still came every morning, always choosing the same booth by the window. Strangely, she often studied old photographs hanging on the diner's walls. One picture seemed to capture her attention more than any other. It showed Rachel and me standing outside the diner shortly after we bought it. Every time Sarah looked at that photograph, an emotion crossed her face that I couldn't understand. Was she remembering something or someone? One winter morning, she didn't show up. The next day, she was absent again. Then a week passed. I told myself she had probably moved on with her life, which should have made me happy. Instead, I felt worried. A strange emptiness settled over the diner. I realized I had grown accustomed to seeing her every day. Customers came and went, but Sarah had become part of the rhythm of my life. I wondered if she was safe, if she was healthy, or if something terrible had happened. Yet there was no way to find her. 3 months later came the morning I would never forget. The diner was busy when the front door opened. I looked up and froze. Sarah stood there wearing expensive clothes. She looked years younger. Confidence radiated from her. Beside her stood a lawyer. The entire room seemed to fall silent. My first thought was that I had done something wrong. My second thought was even worse. Had she been pretending all along? Sarah walked toward me with trembling hands. Tears filled her eyes. The lawyer placed a thick folder on the counter. I felt my stomach tighten. Every possibility raced through my mind except the truth. Then Sarah revealed the first shocking twist. Years before she entered my diner, she had worked as a nurse at the hospital where Rachel received treatment. The room spun. I remembered countless nurses from those difficult months, but I had never recognized Sarah. Back then, she looked different and wore a mask most of the time. She explained that she had cared for Rachel during some of her final days. Rachel often spoke about me, describing how I stayed by her side every night, how I held her hand when she was scared, and how I never stopped believing she would recover. Sarah confessed that those memories stayed with her. Then came another twist. A year after Rachel passed away, Sarah's own life collapsed. Her husband abandoned her. Financial problems destroyed her savings. Depression consumed her. She lost her job and eventually became homeless. During one of the darkest storms of her life, she wandered into my diner without realizing who I was. Only later did she recognize the photograph on the wall. She recognized me immediately. Yet she never told me. Why? Because she wanted to see whether the kindness Rachel described was real. And every single morning, without knowing who she was, I proved that it was. By then, many customers were openly crying. But Sarah wasn't finished. The lawyer opened the folder and revealed the third and most powerful twist. During the years Sarah rebuilt her life, she had also inherited ownership in a successful healthcare company from a distant relative. At first, the business struggled, but eventually it grew beyond anyone's expectations. Sarah became financially secure, very secure. Then she began searching for a way to repay the man who had unknowingly helped save her life. The lawyer slid several documents across the counter. I stared at them without understanding. Sarah had purchased the entire building next door to my diner. She had also established a fund in Rachel's memory. The fund would provide free meals, temporary shelter assistance, and emergency support for people facing hardship. And she wanted me to run it. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the papers. The woman I thought I had been helping was now offering an opportunity to help hundreds of others. I looked at Rachel's photograph hanging on the wall and felt tears streaming down my face. For years I had questioned whether my small acts of kindness mattered. I had wondered if anyone noticed. I had wondered whether the love Rachel and I shared still had a purpose in the world. Now I had my answer. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories that remind people there is still kindness in this world. Over the following months, the empty building next door transformed into a community outreach center. Families received meals. Single parents found temporary assistance. Elderly people discovered support when they had nowhere else to turn. Every wall carried reminders of Rachel's belief that compassion could heal wounds that money never could. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the windows, Sarah handed me a small envelope. Inside was a letter. It had been written by Rachel during her final weeks. Sarah had kept it safe all those years. My heart nearly stopped. In the letter, Rachel wrote that she hoped I would never stop helping people, even after she was gone. She believed kindness created invisible chains connecting strangers in ways we might never understand. She wrote that even the smallest act of compassion could travel farther than we could ever imagine. I sat there crying as I read every word. Comment: kindness wins if you believe one small act can change someone's future. Today, the diner is still open. The coffee still smells the same every morning. The booths are still filled with people carrying burdens nobody else can see. But now, whenever someone walks through the door needing help, I remember Sarah. I remember Rachel. And I remember that rainy morning when a soaked stranger simply asked to use the bathroom. What seemed like an ordinary act of kindness became the beginning of a miracle neither of us could have predicted. The truth is that most people never know the full impact of their kindness. A warm meal, a patient smile, a helping hand, or a few minutes of compassion may seem small in the moment. But sometimes those simple acts become turning points in someone else's story. Sarah found hope because someone cared. I found purpose because someone remembered. And Rachel's love continued changing lives long after she was gone. That is why, no matter how difficult life becomes, I still believe kindness is never wasted. It travels farther than we can see, touches more hearts than we can count, and returns in ways we could never expect. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin with nothing more than opening a door for a stranger on a rainy morning.